Argentina just got banned, not threatened with it. Not under investigation anymore. Banned. Dozens of matches of suspension handed down in writing with names attached after a month of FIFA saying absolutely nothing. The numbers get worse the further down this list you go, and the very last name on it got hit harder than anyone. Let's start with the lightest sanction on the sheet, but also the most surprising one and the hardest to digest. Spain's own Gavi, the teenager who got physically thrown to the ground in the brawl, picked up a one-match ban of his own for unsporting behaviour, plus a $30,000 fine, serving the suspension against England in a Nations League match at Wembley next month. Remember, this is the same Gavi who publicly said afterward he didn't even think Paredes should be suspended over what happened to him. So, think about that for a second. The guy who got manhandled, who then went out of his way to publicly forgive the man who did it, still ends up $30,000 poorer by the end of all this. Genuinely the most worst outcome possible. Gets thrown to the floor, forgives everyone, still gets the bill plus one match ban. Right alongside him, Thiago Almada also picked up a one-match ban, same category, plus a $30,000 fine. The lightest individual punishment on the Argentina side. Don't get comfortable with that number. Next, Roberto Ayala, and this one's different in kind from the others, because he isn't a player, he's the assistant coach. 3 matches, a fine of $30,000. This is the man who threw an actual punch at Dani Olmo, then framed his own apology afterward, as a reaction to something Olmo supposedly said, only for Olmo to call that a lie in the press. A member of a team's own coaching staff getting a formal match ban for throwing a punch is not something that happens quietly. That's a federation level embarrassment. Then it properly escalates. Nahuel Molina, 7 matches, $90,000 fine. Hitting Rodri in the stomach as he ran past to celebrate becoming world champion, then squaring up in his face while Otamendi piled in 2. 2 separate assault charges plus an unsporting conduct charge on top. 7 matches is most of a calendar year of international football for a starting defender. But Paredes got the worst of it by a distance. But before we move into it, if you want the perfect retro shirt from the most trusted licensed official brand in the UK, go to the first link in the description to get it at a discount. This is the brand I trust the most in the UK. But now, back to it. Paredes got the worst ban. But even the federation itself didn't escape this. The Argentine Federation was hit with a fine of $321,000 covering the Falklands banner from the semi-final, plus everything else FIFA had been quietly stacking up against them across the tournament. This isn't Argentina being punished for one bad night, it's an entire summer's worth of disciplinary issues landing in one combined hit. And it's not just money, either. FIFA ordered the AFA to play their next official home match at 50% stadium capacity, with a second identical restriction hanging over them on probation if anything like this happens again. On top of that, they're required to spend an additional $100,000 specifically on anti-racism projects. So, this isn't a fine they quietly write a cheque for and move past. Their own fans lose half the seats in the stadium for a match they had nothing to do with. Now, Leandro Paredes. The guy who had 3 separate counts of assault, the throat strike on Eric Garcia, and throwing Gavi to the ground, and FIFA's disciplinary committee clearly decided this was the most serious individual conduct to come out of the entire brawl. You'd think this is enough for probably 50 games or so, or for a lifetime ban, that makes sure this individual never plays again. But FIFA decided on 10 matches and a $90,000 fine. But here's what 10 matches actually means in real terms. Argentina's entire international calendar runs through June of next year, and this ban wipes out every single fixture on it. Friendlies, early qualifying business, potentially even next year's Copa America, depending how the scheduling lands, all of it gone for one player. For context on how serious that number is, 10 matches ties the exact sanction handed to Josip Simonik back in 2013, a ban that effectively ended his own international career entirely. And honestly, I don't think 10 matches goes far enough. Look at what FIFA did to Luis Suarez back in 2014. His ban didn't just cover Uruguay's fixtures, it originally covered all football-related activity, club included, before it got reduced on appeal. Paredes has 3 separate assault charges from this final alone, on top of the Netherlands incident in 2022, on top of sparking another brawl at Boca Juniors, while these very charges were sitting open against him. If any player's pattern justified going further than just international matches, it was his. FIFA had the option to hit every football activity, not just the badge on his chest, and they didn't take it. Because, here's the thing, This man should genuinely not be playing football anywhere right now, let alone just missing a few caps for his country. And I want to be honest with you about how I actually feel watching this unfold. Because it's not simple. Part of me is genuinely relieved because after 2022, after this final, after Boca Juniors, this is the very first time anything has actually stuck to Paredes specifically. Every single time before this, nothing. A fine here, a warning there, always survivable, always forgotten by the next tournament. So, seeing FIFA finally put a real number on paper with his name attached to it feels like actual accountability landing for the first time. But the other part of me watches that 10-match number and just thinks it should have been more. Given everything on his file, given how many chances he'd already burned through before this final even kicked off, this should have been the case where FIFA went as far as their own rules allow. And Paredes' own reaction to all of this is honestly the wildest part of the entire story. He didn't apologise. He came out swinging at FIFA. His actual quote, "They are all mute now." His argument is that FIFA is protecting Spain, that if the situation were reversed, the whole football world would be screaming about favouritism. But because the punishment landed on him instead, everyone's gone quiet. And then, without missing a beat, Argentina remains the best team in the world with our captain Leo, the heaviest individual sanction of the entire World Cup, and his response is to accuse the system of bias against him. This still isn't over either. The AFA's legal department has already confirmed they're pursuing an appeal, requesting FIFA's full written reasoning so they can escalate to the appeal committee, with the door explicitly left open to go all the way to the Court of Arbitration for Sport if that fails too. Worth remembering though that FIFA's own appeal committee rarely overturns the original ruling, and the Court of Arbitration for Sport is genuinely independent of FIFA entirely, which makes a full reversal a real long shot. So where does that land after all? Genuinely glad this federation finally faced something real, after a summer where it felt like nothing ever stuck. But still frustrated it stopped where it did, when the pattern on Paredes' file alone made the case for going further. The frustrating Gavi's one match, and the also frustrating low Almada's one match, Ayala's 3, Molina's 7, Paredes' 10, that's 21 total matches of suspension between everyone charged, on top of $210,000 in individual player and staff fines, plus the federation's own penalty of $321,000 stacked on top of that. 21 matches, $500,000 combined, from one post-match brawl. So, tell me where you land. Are you satisfied that this finally happened, or do you think it should have gone even further, especially for Paredes? Let me know in the comments, and if you want to be here for whatever happens with this appeal, go hit subscribe. It means a lot to me, and don't forget to check the first link in the description for the best official retro football shirts at a discount.